Picture this. It's December 2025, and for the first time in decades, massive centrifuges are spinning in Ohio, separating uranium atoms to create nuclear fuel entirely on American soil. We're talking about machines spinning at incredible speeds inside a facility that is roughly the size of the Pentagon. That's what they say. Literally rebuilding an industry that America pioneered, but then outsourced to Russia and France. But here's what makes the story even more compelling. This isn't just about energy independence. With AI data centers demanding massive power and our military bases vulnerable to cyber attacks on the grid, America desperately needs nuclear fuel that we can control ourselves. Today, I'm talking with Amir Vexler. He's the CEO who is literally rebuilding American uranium enrichment from scratch. We'll break down how those spinning machines actually work, why his company just got a $900 million government contract, and what it really means when we say we are enriching uranium. This is more than an industrial comeback story. It's about whether America can power the AI revolution, protect our national security, and compete with China in the technology that could very well define the next century. I am Dominique Cooper with UCAN Power's Advanced Nuclear Podcast, where our mission is to educate, promote, and advocate for policies that accelerate advanced reactor technologies for the grid, industrial applications, national defense, space operations, and more.
Welcome to Advanced Nuclear, the official podcast of UCAN Power, where leading experts, innovators, and policymakers explore the latest developments shaping the future of nuclear energy.
My guest today is Amir Vexler. He's the president and CEO of Centrus Energy Corporation. Amir took over at Centrus on January 1st, 2024, just as the company was making history by restarting commercial uranium enrichment in America after decades of foreign dependence. His background is absolutely fascinating. He's got a mechanical engineering degree from the University of Toronto. He spent 20 years at General Electric, where he actually ran global nuclear fuels. And before Centrus, he was the CEO of Orano, USA. So he's been in the nuclear fuel business from every angle. Centrus itself has an incredible story. They trace their roots back to the Manhattan Project and were born where the US government privatized uranium enrichment in the 1990s. Today, they're the only American-owned company actually enriching uranium on US soil. Quick note, the views and opinions you're about to hear are Amir's, his words, his perspectives. Amir, thanks for joining us on Advanced Nuclear.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it. I always like to start with your personal journey. I always find it curious about how people end up running companies that most Americans may not have ever heard about. So can you share with us your story?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I graduated from mechanical engineering, and I started actually not in the nuclear industry. I started in the steel industry, which was a pretty rude awakening for somebody who went to an engineering school. Working in the steel mill was a pretty rough life to work as an engineer. Nonetheless, a lot of things, I've learned a lot of things working there. I worked in the automotive industry as an engineer as well, and then in the late 90s, I was hired by General Electric in their nuclear fuel business in Canada. So originally, I was educated and my work experience started in Canada. And in CANDU Fuel, for those of you probably not that familiar, CANDU is a pretty fascinating technology. It's been operating and generating power in Canada for many years. And I was in the business that was making fuel for those reactors. These are heavy water reactors. And I've been in the company for 20 years. And sort of my last stint was I was the CEO of the joint venture that was in charge of anything that has to do with nuclear fuel. And as you point out correctly, I had the experience to do a lot of jobs related to production of fuel and bringing fuel to life. And after I left General Electric, I was the president CEO of Orano USA, which is a large company and has a lot of involvement in fuel. At the end of 2023, I was hired by Centrus, and I've been in Centrus for a little over 2 years now, and it's been an exciting journey. I think we're doing a lot of exciting things, which I'm sure we're going to get into in a few minutes. And as you pointed out correctly, I think you said we're the only American-owned company that enriches on U.S. soil. I think we're the only U.S. company that probably enriches in the entire universe. But so we can expand that definition. But it is an exciting, distinguished honor.
You know, Amir, that is actually something to be very proud of. You know, to really be completely all American, and I love to hear that. So let's get into Centrus. Tell me more about Centrus. Like, what's your footprint look like? I had the pleasure of doing a little bit of research, and it looks like there's a lot happening in both Ohio and Tennessee. Could you expand on that for our listeners?
Sure. I think the listeners need to understand that part of our unique story is we're not just an enricher. So our enrichment facility is set up in Piketon, Ohio. That's where we currently operate a demo cascade under a contract with the Department of Energy, and we're the only enrichment in the Western world for HALEU fuel, which is almost up to 20% enrichment that's used for advanced reactors. So that's the enrichment side of it, which is in Piketon, Ohio. As you pointed out correctly, it's a massive facility. I mean, people that work in that facility use bicycles to get one part of the building to the other. And probably the more unique side of what we do is we have a large engineering team that is designing and improving and licensing and doing all the work, engineering work that's required for our technology, which is the AC100M technology. That's the centrifuge technology. So we design centrifuges, and now we have launched and are manufacturing centrifuges in our Oak Ridge facility. So 2 main facilities, like I said, in Ohio, Enrichment, and Oak Ridge is where our centrifuge manufacturing, or TMC as we call it.
Awesome. So it sounds as if Centrus, I only have to believe that Centrus has a pretty wild history. I learned that you guys literally used to be the U.S. government's uranium enrichment program, right?
That's correct. So we were the Department of, I think we were Department of Energy. This goes way back before my time, obviously. As your listeners may know, the United States really invented enrichment. It was gas diffusion, and we have been enriching for the entire U.S. market for many decades. And in fact, we've been enriching for most of the Western reactors in Europe and other countries. Somewhere in the 80s or so, a new technology, or maybe even earlier, appeared on the scene, and that was the gas centrifuge technology. And we started developing our own gas centrifuge technology way back then. It was a long program that we worked on. And in the 90s, the government has really decided that they want to privatize the enrichment operation, and out of which USEC was born, United States Enrichment Corp, in the early 90s. The company continued enriching using the old technology for several decades, and we really ceased enrichment operation, I want to say, sometime about 12, 13 years ago. Really, after Fukushima, the SWU prices, or the prices that we get for enrichment, have sunk pretty low. There was not a great deal of demand, and so it did not render it economically feasible to enrich, and we really have dealt mostly with a broker-trader business related to enrichment. But I mean, all this time we have continued developing our technology, and the exciting part is in about 2019 or so, we signed a contract with the U.S. government, with the Department of Energy, and with their assistance, we basically have proved our technology. We ran a demo cascade, which started producing HALEU in October of 2023. So I think that it was a major milestone for our country, for Centrus. And I forgot to mention the important part. Sometime about 12, 13 years ago, we also went through a bankruptcy, and we emerged out of it as Centrus. So prior to that, it was USEC. We emerged out of it as Centrus. And so needless to say, these have been some pretty rough times for us, and I think for the industry in general. Most of my time in the industry, which now is almost 30 years, it's not been as exciting as it is now. I think people that have been in it will attest to that fact, but I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's been less than exciting for many years, and we have not seen such growth, demand, and just generally welcoming of the nuclear power generation as we're seeing now.
Yeah, there's a lot of private investment, clearly, that's emerging in support of, maybe I shouldn't say nuclear renaissance, but the reemergence of nuclear, as they say, making nuclear cool again. So when you talk about your potential customers or your investors, actually, like what is your elevator pitch? What makes Centrus special in a world where, most popular nuclear fuel comes from Russia or France or any other foreign supplier?
Yeah, so our value proposition is fairly simple. We bring diversity of suppliers to the market. We bring the capability of servicing both national security and commercial needs. And thirdly, and in my opinion, probably the most important thing, the fact that we manufacture, design, build, and our entire supply chain is strictly based in the U.S. We offer that supply independence for nuclear fuel here in the United States. We have companies that we compete with. They do a great job enriching, but most of their supply chain for the centrifuges and the centrifuge manufacturing is down outside of the United States. And so we even if the enrichment takes place here in the United States, we as a country are still dependent on somebody else to engineer and produce the centrifuges. So all in all, these were the three things that I'd say are fairly unique about us.
Speaking of manufacturing, you've got this technology and manufacturing center, aka TMC, that you mentioned earlier in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, and please correct me if I have this number incorrect. There's been talk about $60 million in supply chain investments. Are you actually manufacturing new centrifuges right now, or are you still in the getting ready to manufacture phase?
Yeah, so we have announced our readiness program investment, which was $60 million, and that was I believe it was early 2024. It was a while back. We have moved to the next stage, obviously, and we made an announcement towards the end of 2025 that we actually are commencing manufacturing of centrifuges. So we have commenced manufacturing of centrifuges, and we're targeting enrichment in 2029.
Okay, so can we expand more on the Piketon expansion? Again, I think you mentioned that facility is absolutely enormous. And I love the expression that people have used when they characterize the Piketon facility, that it's like the size of the Pentagon. And then you just mentioned, some people literally ride bicycles throughout the facility. That's absolutely amazing, and keeping it fun. And highlighting that you just announced this massive expansion, that could mean thousands of new jobs, right? What is your vision for that site, and when do you expect the first new production lines to actually start spinning?
Right. So the facility that we've described is enormous in size, and if you go to the facility, you'll see that it's it's got all the infrastructure, it's got everything in place. We just simply need to put the centrifuges in the ground and we start spinning them. And so it is my vision that we are going to install enough centrifuges to start, we're going to commence enrichment in 2029. As we continue locking in customer contracts, I envision a modular expansion of that facility to the fullest, and potentially even adding on facilities on the same grounds where we are. So in our business, it's important to understand that economies of scale are critically important. You know, the larger the facility, the more efficient you are, the better value you bring to your customers. So we will always strive to expand and lock in more commitments, and that's the process through which we're going right now.
So let me ask you this: as it relates to high-tech manufacturing, are you utilizing or leveraging any cutting-edge tech in the build-out of your AC100 machines?
There's certain things that we have not announced publicly. I think it would be good for listeners to tune in and watch how our sort of execution unfolds. We place a great deal of focus on our execution, obviously. We have metrics and targets for improvement. We want to be able to get more efficiency, more productivity, and obviously all of it with the goal of being a lot more commercially competitive. And this is a process that will continue in perpetuity. And so even as we are going through the initial stages of manufacturing, we are in parallel launching already and already have a lot of great signs of improvement to what we do, to the designs and the productivity of our equipment.
From a national security perspective, because we kind of touched on that a little bit, but I want to offer an opportunity for you to expand on how Centrus fits into, the national security mission, considering that the NNSA, the National Nuclear Security Administration, will need fuel for things like naval reactors and weapon programs. Could you share, how you guys fit into that mission? And then also how you stack up against other companies that are also attempting, to get into the domestic uranium enrichment.
Sure. So let's look at the market. We are competing against all of our competitors are foreign-owned companies and largely government-owned, state-owned enterprises. There's China, there's Russia, there is Urenco, which is owned by 3 European countries, namely the UK, Germany, and Netherlands. And then you have Orano, which is majority owned by the government of France. And so they all possess a technology which has which is an obligated technology which cannot be used for national security purposes. As we stand right now, the only enrichment technology that has the capability to be used for national security, or unobligated technology, as we would call it, is Centrus's centrifuge technology. And so we're fairly uniquely positioned in that respect, in that the only de facto enricher at this point that has unobligated capability is Centrus. Now, there's other enrichers that have made announcements and are attempting to enter the market. I have no opinion on that. It's just we'll have to remain in watch and see mode and see how their journey unfolds and whether they'll be able to come across the line. But we definitely are farther ahead than everybody else.
That also begs another question, as it relates to the technology piece of what you guys are doing. Are you looking at other enrichment methods?
At this point, we're doubling down and investing as much as we can in our own technology and improving our technology. To say that we have any plans that are different than that at this point, I would say no, but I've learned never to say never. But as it stands, I mean, I have to emphasize to the listeners here that when you think about other companies that are trying to enter the market, and obviously we all hope that they're successful and wish them all the best. But it's a lengthy process. It's a process where it takes a long time to develop your technology and prove that it works. I mean, these centrifuges are going to be in service for decades, 30, 40 years, and it's important to be able to test them properly. And in our demo cascade that we're operating, it's been operating well over 2 years now. It's operating as designed, exactly as we expected, and that gives us a great deal of confidence to launch what we launched, to invest what we invested, to raise capital in the manner in which we raised capital. And the fact that the Department of Energy stepped in and gave us a $900 million vote of confidence, we obviously are very thankful for that. It does a great deal for us, and it will have material positive impact on our program. So that is a fantastic thing for us.
Awesome. So I think we're getting close to time. So before we do closing remarks, I want to invite you to play a game that involves me asking you 4 to 5 questions, really quick questions, and about 30 seconds to answer each question. It's called a lightning round as it relates to nuclear. Are you up for that?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, here we go. Russian uranium gets banned in 2028. And you're targeting 2029 for new production. That's cutting it incredibly close, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that Centrus will actually meet the timeline?
I'm confident we'll meet the timeline, and I will tell you this, that this is what we announced to everybody, and part of our improvement projects, we're looking for opportunities and ways that we can do better, faster, cheaper. And so I feel confident about what we announced to everybody, and I'm looking very hard, and I'm optimistic about opportunities to do better.
What keeps you up at night? Is it the technology, the politics, the competition, or something else entirely?
That's a great question. Usually I'm a sound sleeper, so I can't say that literally anything keeps me at night. But if there's anything that out there that we really focus on is execution. We want to be a company that is known for delivering. We want to be the company that has the credibility of delivery, and we've done that with our demo cascade. I think this was a little bit before my time, and I said this is a great achievement. The company achieved something historic. I think we were on below budget and ahead of schedule, which is remarkable in our industry. And I think we want to continue be known for that in our industry. I mean, as you know, our industry, there's a lot of stories that are not necessarily that successful. And we certainly want to be the opposite of that. So if there's anything that keeps me up at night, is I want to make sure that we put enough attention and enough energy into beating and exceeding our commitments.
I love that. China's building nuclear reactors faster than anyone in history. Are they a customer, a competitor, or a threat to what you are building at Centrus?
Wow. Obviously, I'm talking about it from a fuel perspective. China is a competitor, number one, a competitor. Is it a concern to us if we're investing a lot of our money and billions of dollar type projects here? We just want to make sure that we have fair trade and fair practices, and that we have sort of clarity on how things are going to work. Definitely would classify them as a competitor on the fuel side.
You could probably make more money in a lot of other industries with less government red tape. What personally drives you to rebuild American uranium enrichment?
Well, on the personal side, I can tell you that there's nothing really more satisfying than what we're doing now. We're hiring hundreds of people, hundreds of employees in areas that, I mean, they're not major cities. They're not great jobs in some of these areas. Some of these areas we're the best employer. We offer great pay, great benefits. People can raise families, send their kids to college while working for us. I mean, this is a very satisfying thing. I mean, as we reindustrialize the country, this is one of the things that I guess motivates me the most, is the fact that we are expanding, are able to hire, and literally change people's lives.
It's 2030, and everything goes according to plan. Paint me a picture. What does the American nuclear fuel industry look like, and where does Centrus fit in that future?
Here's my vision. My vision is American enterprise and American supply chain, which really powers our business, is supplying a great deal of the American market share here for enrichment. And not only that, enables American advanced reactors or any type of reactors, enables them to compete globally. As some of the American design reactors start competing globally, they would need an American fuel partner to enhance some of their offerings around the globe. As you can imagine, when you start selling reactors, I'm pretty sure a lot of our competitors like Russia and China come and sell the fuel together with a plant. We're looking forward to some of these partnerships, and the picture I'd like to paint to you is we're going to be exporting. We're going to be making the American designs and American industry a lot stronger by being able to offer them this package deal of being able to supply fuel together with their reactors.
So before we wrap up, you're literally rebuilding an industry that America pioneered, but then outsourced. That's fair to say. I assume that has to be both exciting and daunting. What's your final message to people who are just learning about how critical uranium enrichment is to our energy future?
The message I'd like to leave in everybody's mind is, I truly believe the latest sentiment in politics. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, and we watch the elections, and I'm not taking a political stance, both parties ran on reindustrialization, bringing back skills, particularly in areas that are important to our national security, and just generally areas that enable our quality of life here. I mean, power enables our quality of life. Having affordable fuel for the power, reliable fuel for the power, stuff that we want to be done in the United States of America with skills that we have built and created and have here. I think this is critical. I mean, we can say that about not only power, we can talk about drug production, pharmaceuticals, semiconductors. All of that falls in the same category. We're doing our part, and I want people to take that away, that it is critically important that we have the skills, capability, and infrastructure to do these things here in the United States.
Oh my gosh, this has been fascinating. I wish we could talk more because I'm curious about actually quite a few things that you shared. But I definitely want to say thank you for your time. And you know what you guys are doing at Centrus, I would say the timing is absolutely unreal. Because you are very instrumental in rebooting an industry that America pioneered, and you're doing it at a massive scale. Just as energy security is back at the center of everything, which is personally exciting. I mean, we're talking about billions of investment, thousands of jobs, and fuel that could support everything from advanced reactors to AI data centers. And, you know, with your site as the only Western producer of HALEU, the stakes and urgency are crystal clear, especially with Russian supply tightening in 2028. If people are following that, it really does feel like American energy independence is being rebuilt one centrifuge at a time.
Precisely.
Well, thank you again, Amir. If you found today's conversation as eye-opening as I did, please subscribe to UCAN Power's Advanced Nuclear Podcast and share this episode with anyone who cares about America's future in energy. Until then, keep asking the tough questions about how we power America's future. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on Advanced Nuclear, powered by UCAN Power. If this episode brought clarity to the future of American energy, share it with someone shaping policy or industry. I'm Dominique Cooper. This is the moment. This is the movement. See you on the next episode.